DevCentral community, it is that time again. It's Thursday, it's 12:30 Pacific, and it's DevCentral Connects. I'm John, this is Jason, and we're here connecting with all of you as we do every single time. We're streaming to YouTube and LinkedIn and Periscope, and Jason, I think today, Twitch. Am I right?
You are correct, sir.
Man, we are expanding the footprint of the streaming, universe here for DevCentral. It's amazing. But anyway, as you probably know, you can interact with us live here. So type in those comments on any of those platforms. We'll get those. So Parm B, you know what we say to you? Hello, right back at you. Love it. Love it.
And get the love from Priscilla,
and
our
Priscilla,
partner in
man,
crime. Yeah.
We're not the only ones saying hello back at you. Priscilla is too. So great to see everybody out there. So today is an amazing day, but before we get started, Jason, I've got what I consider a pretty unbelievable question. I don't know if you're even going to believe this one, but here's the question. When you think back to, really, I'll go elementary or junior high or high school or college, or frankly, you pick. Wow. What was your favorite class that you ever took in school? And maybe you don't have like a favorite, but like one that you really loved.
Yeah. Two come to mind immediately.
Right.
One was actually they're both in college.
Okay.
One was history. It was
Really?
U.S. history.
Okay.
And I wasn't really a huge history buff, but I had a professor who, rather than teaching us, all the facts and making us memorize facts, he really broke it down to here are the big things that happened in the 20 years that led up to the reason this war happened.
Yeah.
And the 30 years of fallout because of that.
After that, right.
And so it really brought history alive rather than just being a whole bunch of dates and facts that you had to memorize. So that class was really, really good.
Yeah.
And then my other one was avionics, or not avionics, it was aerodynamics. And
aerodynamics.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, my degree is actually in aviation. Who knew? Right.
Of course.
So my first aerodynamics class, my professor walks in, he's like, here's the truth. I can make a toaster fly. I can make a refrigerator fly. I can make a deep freezer fly. It's all about lift and thrust. And
lift and thrust.
So we started the whole class like that. And so, we dug into all the math and all that. And we spent the whole semester designing our own aircraft. So we had to design our airfoil first and decide if we were going to have a low wing or a high wing or an X-wing or whatever kind of aircraft we were going to have. And then after we had our airfoil designed, then we, designed the fuselage and all that stuff. So
nice. You could have designed the TIE fighter, right? From Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's an X-wing, maybe. I don't know.
You can make that.
So
you can make that fly as well.
Make it fly.
Yeah. Put enough thrust on it.
I once knew when I was in the Air Force, a pilot was like, hey, the proof that you can make anything fly is the F-4 Phantom, because that thing is just a big block that has a huge turbojet engine on it. So
this is true.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, fascinating.
How about you?
Fascinating. So I was thinking about this. Frankly, on the history thing, if any of my previous history teachers are watching this, then, I love you all. However, let's make history more interesting, because it is, frankly, it should be interesting, because it's like, hey, the reason this event was documented in the history books is because it's a very fascinating, interesting event. But history was not my favorite. When I was in college, my undergrad was computer engineering. So I took a lot of math and science classes and all that, but I got to take like just an elective, just a free, whatever you want to take elective. And so of course I chose ballroom dancing. And so I got to take some ballroom dance. So I learned how to do the waltz and the foxtrot and all that. And it was amazing. So anyway, little known fact.
Was that the background for your MC video introduction where you did all the different dances? Because that video is amazing. Yeah. We're gonna have to link that in the show notes.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
I didn't even think about I didn't think about you connecting those dots. No, not specifically. But anyway, yeah, it's always good. It's so we appreciate all the teachers out there and everyone who helps educate us. So anyway, awesome, man. And I don't know if you put it up there, but Desdemona, is that right? Desdemona.
That's
how I say it. Yeah, interesting stuff. Desdemona, you're welcome. You're welcome. And hey, we're always taking topics and ideas and all that. So shoot us a note, or shoot it right here in DevCentral Connects. Hey, I want to see a whiteboard on this thing. We'll be happy to do it. So good stuff, man. All right, so Jason, we got some exciting stuff coming up too, right?
We do. Yeah. So today, obviously, is Data Privacy Day.
It's
I didn't get
amazing.
rid of that banner, so I really didn't mean to share that.
Well,
So-
yeah, if you didn't know, now you do.
That's
people.
right here and now. So yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, next week we're going to actually be back here for DevCentral Connects. Normally we're on an every other week, but
Yeah.
because of the way timing worked out with some of our guests, F5 device ID we're going to go into next week. And if you don't know that you can go get it yourself, you can go drop device ID from F5 Cloud Services, totally free.
Yep.
And so you could go check that out if you want to go read about it before next week, or even drop it on your site before next week. You come back, ask a lot of questions. We'll have a good time.
Yep.
And then on Tuesday, not Thursday, but Tuesday, February 9th at 10 a.m., actually, is it 8 a.m. Pacific?
Yeah, 8 a.m. Pacific, yeah.
So 10 a.m. our time, but 8 a.m. Pacific. We're going to do the Ansible Lab live with the awesome guys from WWT.
Mm-hmm.
And then February 11th, we're back here, DevCentral Connects with credential stuffing report.
Right.
And so we'll have a great lineup coming up here in the next few weeks. So, make sure you come back.
It's an exciting time. Well, today we are blessed to have two of the greats from F5, two of the great minds that we get to just, live next to and work with and learn from. And so we have today Miss Aileen Cronin and Estelle Jochel from our legal team, and we're going to talk about data privacy. So, Jason, I think maybe it's time to bring them on.
All right.
Aileen and Estelle, how are you doing today? Thanks for being here.
Hi.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, so Aileen, we'll start with you really quick. Frankly, one of the reasons that I was inspired to ask the question about your favorite subject in high school is that you have a bit of fame, related to your high school past, right? So I have been told that you went to high school, maybe not with, but at the same place as the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, and also Tyra Banks. Is that right? So you paved the way for these famous stars. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. And absolutely. I could take no credit for their amazing lives now, but I do share in the same teachers and educators. We shared that for sure. And Jason, I just wanted to say how impressed I am with the memory of what your teachers taught you. They'd be really proud, because I think I dumped that data out of my brain when I graduated.
That's awesome. That's as many of us did, Aileen, to be fair. A lot of it's a flush.
I keep a lot of stuff in my head that's absolutely of no use today. When I need something that's absolutely valuable, it's not there. But song lyrics from the late 1970s, call me, because they're there.
Any movie quote from the 80s, boom, locked in.
That's
no
right.
problem. But useful stuff, that's why Google got invented, right?
That's right.
So good stuff. Awesome. Well, then, and then we also have Miss Estelle Jochel. Estelle, welcome to the show. Estelle, you grew up in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower, right in the heart of Paris, France. Is that right?
Yeah, in Paris, central Paris for sure. Not in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower, but not far from the sea, for people who knows Paris.
Nice. Not many people can say that, even if they're like, hey, I'm from France. I didn't grow up in Paris, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
But you did.
Yeah,
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well,
and so I guess the real question is since you grew up there, in that amazing city, why are you in the United States now?
What are you doing, Estelle?
That is
I'm not questioning your life choices, but I might be questioning your life choices.
that is a great question that I'm asking myself every day when it's raining in Seattle. But okay, no, the rain is pretty similar in Paris. But yeah, I just followed a leader, someone that is on this call, actually, Aileen,
Nice.
to go in this wonderful adventure of privacy at F5. Basically, this is a good reason, a really good reason.
Beautiful. No, that's hey. Well, we're happy that you're at F5 for sure, and Seattle is all the better because you're there.
So am I.
That's right. We all are. Well, it's great to have both of you here today. It's just an honor. So we're talking about data privacy, and today is Data Privacy Day, right? So what a great topic then today.
And not just here in the United States, but it's international, right? It's an international day. Yeah.
All over the world. Right.
Absolutely. It's a commemoration of this, of the 28th of January, 1981, where a great document was drafted. It's called Convention 108. And it's like the first legal binding document talking about privacy. So this is why we're celebrating and commemorating this day today.
Fascinating. See that, Jason, that's some history right there.
There you go.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's very meaningful. It gives some context. It gives some life to what today is all about. Beautiful. So maybe we'll start here then. When we talk about data privacy, what is data privacy? Why is it important?
John Eileen, or should I go?
You go.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Estelle. Go ahead.
Privacy, it's really the right to be left alone. So basically, again, a little bit of history. The concept of privacy comes from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948. And it's really about ensuring that people have the right to have a private life and be left alone. And then when we talk about data privacy, knowing how this world is digitalized is to ensure that people have control over the data, and then organizations are respecting the data. So this is what data privacy is.
Okay. Aileen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I always think of privacy as this nebulous thing, right? Because as Estelle mentioned, there's this human right, but then there's this data. So it's a hard thing to make sure people understand that when we're talking about it in the enterprise space, we're really talking about it in terms of data usage, data handling, and transparency. So it's sometimes I think of it as, it's kind of in the air. It's all around us because, how many types of identifiable points to all of us that exist in the ecosystem. But it's really important to bring it back down to, we're really talking about data privacy. And, I think we can walk you through some of what we mean by that. But for this conversation, it's the data.
Yeah.
Us. Yeah.
And you mentioned all these different points that identify you as an individual. I don't know if this is actually true, but in my mind, I just think that over the years, it seems like more of those points have become, usable or whatever. So whereas like my fingerprint, maybe my fingerprints have always been a thing, but like my retina on my eyeball or my face ID or my whatever, it's they're being used. I feel like more now than maybe before, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the traceability back to you, right? So that's a lot of times folks will come to us and say, well, this isn't personal data. And we can get into what that means. And we'll say, well, what are you doing? And they'll have 3 data points. And you'll say, yes, those 3 data points together are personal data. But if you break them apart as individual elements, they might not be. So it has to be a conversation that you have to understand what you have and what you're doing with it. To really appreciate sort of the what you need to do then, or how you need to handle it.
Yeah. Well, and is there a difference between individuals' data privacy and corporate corporate data privacy? Like, for me personally, as Jason Rahm, the data privacy that I would care about versus the data privacy that maybe F5 or any other company would care about. Are there any different principles between those two, or are the principles the same, just maybe the way you attack it might be a little different?
I can take this. I think first off, I wanted to go back to personal data because we have talked about this concept, and maybe it would be good if we're all on the same page on this, and maybe it touches as well to your questions, Jason. So personal data is any set of data that can recognize someone, that can identify someone, related to a person, a natural person, as we say. So it could be a name, a surname, it could be your credit card information, a social security number. And then after you have another set of data, which are special category of data that are a bit more sensitive. And that would be like in the US, as I said, like social security number, that could be your race, your ethnicity, that could be your political opinions and things like that. So it's any sets of data that is related to someone. First off. And then often the question that we have is, okay, then I work at F5, I'm Estelle, is my job title and my name, and so basically customers' information at a high level, contact information, is it personal data? The answer is yes. So related to either if it's data related to your household in your house, or if it's data related to a company, yes, it is considered. It is under the scope. Okay. Then after privacy, it's governed by privacy law. So obviously, it's much more organization that would be subject to those laws. So as an individual, you will not be fined because you have done this or that. But yeah, you still need to respect that because in terms of confidentiality, let's say if on your own social media, you're sharing personal data of your family or your brother, you may have issues that are not related to privacy law, but in terms of confidentiality or like saying things that you should not be necessarily sharing. That makes sense.
Like your own personal family paparazzi.
Yes.
There you go.
Estelle, are you suggesting that some people overshare information on social media?
People should be careful.
I am shocked.
Yeah. I'm always surprised at the ones that that really do announce the birth of a child with the full date. Like, okay, that's out there forever. Now there's the birth date out there. You
can change a lot of things, Aileen. You cannot change your birthday, right? Right.
Yeah. So it's people have to be careful. So yes, individuals have to be super careful, and then like Estelle said, organizations are legally bound to be careful. Now, we at F5 like to think we go above and beyond that in terms of we're going to look at the ethical use as well as the possible use and our legal obligations. So that's how I think smart organizations think about how to maintain privacy of their customers.
Yeah. Beautiful. No, that's a great distinction, because some people may think, hey, this is my own personal stuff, I'm doing my own thing on the side or whatever, but I think we all have a responsibility here. Certainly corporately as a company, but as an individual, I think you need to take this personally seriously as well. So beautiful. Yeah. So hey, we actually had a question from a guy here talking about security and hey, I don't know if I trust things and all that. And with all of the data breaches and all of the spillage of data and all that, I mean, pick any kind of crazy data breach recently. Then some people may take the mindset of, hey, it's a lost battle, like I'm just kind of giving up. I just assume that all my stuff's out there, right? So I'm going to kind of work from that ground level.
Which I think is what Reloaded here is getting at, right?
Yeah. Reloaded is like, hey, I'm in this company and I didn't know that they were stealing passwords. I don't know what company you're working with. They're Reloaded, but nonetheless, the issue, I think the larger discussion that's related to that is, hey, if my stuff's already out there, what's the point? But that's a bit of a defeatist attitude. I think we need to have a more optimistic approach. So, Aileen, maybe you've got a quick thought on that.
Yeah. I mean, as privacy professionals, we definitely err on the side that it's not a lost cause. I completely get the question in terms of how disappointing it is. And, I've talked to people over the years who've received, upwards of 10 breach notifications from, pretty significant organizations, and they have given up. So we are on the side of not giving up, and we are on the side of that we are going to ensure that whatever data has not been spilled is firmly protected and firmly, and used appropriately. So I'm sorry for everybody else who has that kind of experience, because it's really not fair from our standpoint.
Yeah. And if they're stealing your password, whoever that would be, you could change your password, right? And use a good strong one. Estelle, do you have any thoughts on that one, Estelle?
Yeah, I think the disappointment sometimes comes from the fact that there is an overwhelm. We're overwhelmed by privacy details and privacy notices and like the little lines that no one reads. On those tendencies sometimes. But I think if we collectively start paying more attention to those little lines and start reading a bit more about what we do, and when we share data, what organization would do with our data, we'll feel more in control. So surely this organization, for sure, it's not really great that they share it, like they're stealing password and things, but that may be somewhere in a notice. So if you're not in line with company kind of ethics, it's good to know and to take action from that. But yeah, I would say, one takeaway is to really start the due diligence on reading those little lines, basically.
Yeah, I think I need a lawyer 101 or legal 101 document on, because I mean they're like hundreds of pages long, some of them.
You just scroll through. Just get me to the end. You know?
And it would be nice if there was a legal requirement for there to be a layman's version of the legal document.
Yeah, there is. I think at least GDPR has a requirement to make sure that notices are clear and short and simple and layered if they're too long, so that you can go straight to the point, having different paragraphs. So again, I'm much more on Aileen's side. Let's not give up. And it's quite new. I would say privacy for sure is not new, but this kind of GDPR requirements and things. So organizations are still catching up. So
yeah,
I'm sure I'm still hopeful, basically.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Maintain the hope. Yeah. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Aileen, you had something?
Estelle mentions the GDPR, and I just kind of want to comment on the fact that the one reason why to not give up, and one reason to kind of pay attention, and even as painful as it is to watch all the T's and C's, is because the laws really haven't kept up, right? GDPR only came about a few years ago. So the laws are behind in protecting us. So if we don't do it, then nobody is going to do it for us. So it's this kind of idea of, take some ownership, unfortunately, and try to do what you can. And the other tip I would give is, don't assume that just because hundreds and thousands of people are on a certain app, that app must be okay. That they can't be doing whatever they're doing to your data. So there's also that sort of stop yourself and think, have I really self-checked, or am I just going along with the herd kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, and two, it's kind of hard, on the consumer side of things to know where that line of safety is, because like take TikTok last summer, for example, where, TikTok became this big, geopolitical thing of, that company or, country A is stealing all this data and all that. And it's like on the consumer side of that, it's really hard to understand the not just the legal stuff, but also the technical aspects of how all these things work, and what level of assurance do we really have, except for side A says this, side B says this, and they're so different. It's hard to know, one, who to trust. And Pete says, isn't it more about losing trust, whether it's the system or people and all that. So how do we combat that? Not that we want to give up, but sometimes it's just really hard to understand who we're supposed to trust.
Yeah. That is a question I'm going to punt to Estelle.
Oh, that's okay.
Estelle, drop some truth on us right now. Let us know.
Yeah, but I think it's not just about like companies that are devil and like trying to I think this society is learning along the way. We're collecting more data over the a year that we have collected for the history of humanity. So, and technology is moving so fast. So I would not necessarily just assume that all those companies are villain and just want to scam us. I would just say that, we collectively need to learn more about what we want to do as a humankind, and individually we have an accountability. So to educate ourselves and becoming a bit more aware of what's going on. So a few tips on this, as I said, the due diligence on starting a bit, reading more, understanding more, attending those type of talks to better understand privacy, but also understanding what is the privacy settings when you have an app and what they do with your data, understanding a bit more what cookies are and tracking technologies. That will help, I think. But yeah, I'm not in a conspiracy theory mode. It's not so far.
The other piece is the education of the next generation, because I have kids, and it's this whole idea of they're so freewheeling and will download the apps. I think they have to have falsified their birth dates, because I never have ever received a parental consent request. So it's just educating them. My daughter flew through here earlier today and said, "Oh, look, I'm getting ads for somebody who's selling these puppies the exact puppy that she wants.
Mhm.
And it's through this other app. And I said, yeah, that's because you've been looking at those puppies on TikTok for the past, few weeks. So there's, there's a share there that's there's a connection that's happening there. And, so it's educating and saying, you're being tracked, so be careful, sort of thing.
Yeah. We joke sometimes sitting around the kitchen table, we'll be like, hey, everyone get out your phone and just start saying, I love, Cocker Spaniel puppies. And then how long is it going to take before we start seeing puppies on our feed, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. That's always fascinating. But to both of your points, and kind of a maybe a comment too on what Jason was talking about. I think part of the answer to all of that, like who do I trust, is exactly this right here: having the conversations with people, understanding what's going on in the world. So like Aileen, to your point, it's like, hey, what one app shares information with another app? You learn those kinds of things by interacting with people. A friend of mine notified me the other day about some privacy settings on my phone that had just been changed. The introduction of some new kind of privacy settings that were not there in a previous version of the software on my phone. Then I update the software, and it's like all of a sudden here's this new privacy tracking kind of a option. It's like I didn't even know about that, right? But as I talk to friends and community, then you learn these things, and I think that's one way we can help with all this in terms of who to trust. So anyway, just a thought.
Yeah, I think building on what you're saying there. I think I know which one you're talking about, because I was looking at those settings as well, and I went in there and saw that I'm college hunting with my son right now, and we went out and I downloaded degree completion plans for what he wants to do and all that. And then when I was looking at those settings, like, oh, these universities shared data with us. I'm like, what? It's been like 8 hours. How do they already have that data? And so it's crazy.
They've already got your entire college career planned out for you.
That's right. If they would do that as well, I share the
it would be
That's
welcomed.
Right.
Welcomed. That's right.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, awesome. Well, hey, one thing I wanted to ask about, there's been some great publications, at least on the F5 side, that both of you have been able to share out with the F5, just world. But we wanted to share it here with the DevCentral community as well. And one of these is privacy by design, how you can design into your systems or your mindset or whatever. But I wondered if you could, maybe just touch on what that means and how we can kind of think about that.
Yeah. Do you want to go, Eileen, or?
There you go. See, she's so differential. It's like, no, we're
I know, yeah, you're too nice to each other. Just jump in there. Maybe I should have.
No, you're welcome.
We need to give you guys the Jeopardy button.
Right. It's like when you're on your phone, the phone with your boyfriend or girlfriend in high school. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. That whole thing. Anyway, we digress maybe a bit, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so as I said, we are in a kind of ever-changing kind of world, and more and more data are collected. So lots of people have great ideas, developers in particular, and project managers and program managers. So privacy by design is one way, at least, to mitigate privacy risk. So what does that mean? That means that whenever you have an idea, you make sure that you put privacy consideration at the beginning of the conception phase. So it's really about thinking of all those different components, and not, thinking about the plumbing once the house is all built up, because then it's going to be more difficult to knock out this wall and this one to put the plumbing in. So the sooner you involve, the more awareness people have about privacy requirements, and the sooner they involve their privacy team, the better for this requirement. So, and then throughout the life cycle, just make sure that privacy is still embedded and thought through. So this is what privacy by design means.
Okay.
I think that's a lot like security by design, because for decades we build the app first, and then we either just throw it out there and wait for the vulnerabilities to come, or we build it and we say, okay, security, by the way, we built this, and you've got 8 seconds to look at it before we go live.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So, oh, now you have 5 seconds, and and now we're live. Yeah.
And that is the issue, to be able to work in a more agile way and to like make sure that product goes to market fastest as possible. Because then, if it's about like knocking all the walls to put the plumbing again, we need to redo a lot. So the sooner you involve your privacy team, the better we can build together and like go faster.
Yeah.
We really like to think about. We really like to think about it like with the end in mind. So, who is the customer? Solving the customer's data. If you have a customer's customer, they have obligations with that data. So we have to kind of work backwards. Like, who are we selling to? And then what are their privacy or data challenges? And then go all the way back into the design phase and say, let's solve them there. So, I do like the parallels with security, but I also sometimes oversimplify security and say, yeah, but at the last moment, you can slap on some encryption maybe, or you can, lock the door. But privacy has to be like, it has so many more different nuances to it in terms of saying, all right, how do we bring it to market? Even to the extent of, things like, where are we developing? What locations are we developing in? Who has access to the data that's being developed? It's being handled. So yeah, it's we like to think of it as a holistic experience.
Yeah, just to add on this, one of the principles, for instance, is data minimization. So it's really about collecting only the data that you need for care purpose. So that is like something, privacy principles that are super clear, really important, because this is why you can see like the big finds happening. And also we talked a lot about trust. So it's also a big deal for customers trust. Yeah. So if you start collecting a bunch of data just to see what's going to happen with no purpose, with no transparency to your customers and things, and already all the data is ingested, you're going to have an issue, straight away. So this is what we're saying. Let's make sure that all those principles are thought through before, and then after we can walk along the way. Yeah.
And I love the idea of it has to be on your mind, not just at the beginning of the design phase and all that, but all the way through.
Yeah.
And so Estelle, to your point, that only collect what you need to collect. Don't just be this dumping grounds for every bit of data you can possibly get your hands on. And a couple of the practical things, if I remember when I was reading through some of the privacy by design stuff, are things like give your customers or the people that would use your system or whatever the choice to opt in or opt out of things, right? So kind of a GDPR type, idea. And then like catalog all your data. That way you actually know like what kind of data is this, sort of thing. So you're organizing some things. So are those a couple of them that you guys would maybe recommend or think about?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to? I can go. Yeah. What you say is like 100% relevant. Is like opt-in, opt-out is whatever when you collect data. For sure, if you want to give a bit of power and control to individuals about their data, you should select what we call privacy by default settings. So the more private, the better. So then people can actually decide to opt in. This requirement, opt-in, opt-out, depends per country. So some countries says it's okay, you can collect, and if someone isn't happy, they can then opt out. Other countries are like, actually don't collect until the person has said, yes, I want it. So those are like nuances, and it depends per country. But yeah, absolutely. I think privacy by default would be a really good point to put in place. And to touch about the data catalog, what is really important is you need to be really in control about what data you have. And to do that, you need to do it in an automatic way. So you need to have a catalog knowing what PII you have, what personal data, and so that it helps you knowing where your assets are, what you have, and if there is any deletion request, for instance, or either from your contract standpoint, or either as per privacy rights, because people can ask for you to delete the data, you would be in better control. So it's really about data mapping, knowing what you have, and being in control of the data set.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Kadir mentions, you were talking about why is privacy different country to country? Why do some countries care more about privacy than others?
I think it's down to history again. Privacy is really a fundamental right. So it started really in Europe, and you have all those sets of laws that came up in Europe, starting about privacy and data privacy, and the Constitution of Europe. So bit of history. Council of Europe, drafted this Convention 108 that I mentioned, and then there have been European Union had some sets of document legislations, and this GDPR thing was massive and was discussed for a long time as well, because before that you have the directive, Data Protection Directive in 1995. So I would say that in Europe, privacy is really embedded and ingrained. And now currently the US is ramping up, so someone have mentioned in the chat the CCPA and CPRA, so these Californian laws. And you can see lots of different states as well coming up with different version of this, or at least drafts. So, but I would say and then after you have Asian countries, Japan, for instance, with big privacy law, Korea, Australia. So you have and India now is drafting a bill on data privacy that should have came out last year, but it would come up really soon.
Mm-hmm.
There is different kind of maturity on privacy concerns per country, and this is why laws are different. What I would suggest is and what we're doing at F5 is really taking, the most stringent, which is GDPR, and then you're pretty much covered. Once you talk about once you use GDPR as a framework, you ensure really privacy by design and by default, and privacy of your customers. And you pretty much covered from other legislations.
Yeah, it's pretty restrictive. Awesome.
Yeah.
Bailey, did you have a thought on that as well?
No, I appreciate the question, because it is a challenge. It can be really overwhelming to think of all the countries and all the laws. And so we really have adopted the GDPR framework. And then, there's going to be nuances in certain countries, but we'll watch out for those nuances. But again, regulators, if you're tackling GDPR, more times than not, regulators aren't going to bother us, if we're doing that right.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring this comment up real quick, because that's terrifying. Sarah mentioned protect your kid's birth date is PII. Had a child in California where they take an extra blood sample and they sell that data. That seems really wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's hey, how many vials are we taking? Well, we were supposed to take 3, but we're going to take a 4th today. It's what?
Well, and she mentions, personal interest and awareness is key. The more I dig in, the more paranoid I get. And, if you've seen the movies, The Social Dilemma and Terms and Conditions, you walk out of both of those, I think either throwing your hands up or super paranoid, And so, I guess it's balancing that, landing somewhere between cynical, paranoid and ambivalent dreamer, somewhere in there. It's I don't need to know about that, ignorance is bliss kind of thing.
Yeah. But we never give up though, right? We still stay the course.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's right. Fight the good fight. Yeah. And, the point really quick on the law thing, the fact that we, us here, plus those watching, I'm sure, we're in the technology world, right? That's just what we work in and around all the time. And technology changes so quickly. And as we all know, laws do not. And so laws, I believe, will always be way behind where technology is. So, technology is way out here. Laws are, you can see my hands, whatever. Anyway, laws are always going to lag way behind. So this is why it's also so important to have these conversations and say, hey, regardless of whether there's a law that's forcing us to do this thing that is right, then we need to do this thing because we know it's right, and let the laws catch up as they may. But we gotta keep pressing on. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, the GDPR was really an interesting watershed moment for the privacy professionals, because before that, you really had some certain countries had certain laws, but in the U.S., you really only had sort of the HIPAA, which is over healthcare, and you had GLBA, which is over our financial data. And so if you were an unregulated company, what did you use? And so it was a really difficult time to even have conversations with leadership to invest, because there wasn't, what's the consequence? Oh, it's a data breach. Okay, well, how much does that cost? They just didn't have a framework to think about it. Now, the Europeans definitely did. I mean, like Estelle said, it's a really always been seen as a human right in those countries. And so we finally caught up, and companies finally woke up when they went, oh, I'm a US company, but I do business around the globe. And now I have to be compliant with GDPR. And for privacy professionals, it was like, because then finally there was a framework to be used and a stick to be, explained. So, it is work, but at the end of the day, it put us all on a level playing field for what the standard should be.
Yeah. That's a great point. Go ahead, Estelle.
Yeah, and as privacy professional, as we said, we don't want to lose hope. And at the same time, we want to be optimistic that we don't need to have those big law enforcement and like the stick. We want to make sure that professionals and like people understand that it is a right thing to do.
Yes.
It's good for business. It's the right thing to do. We're all learning as humankind, and yeah. So as before, like at the beginning of this chat, we started saying, why is privacy important? So we talked a bit about, okay, it's important for employee trust and customer trust, but also it's really important because it's the right thing to do. And it's not just about like a brand reputation or ensuring your risk management. It's also because it's the right thing to do. So
I think everybody really internalizes it. If you're working at a good company like F5 and you say, do the right thing as our guiding principle, and we're going to make sure that transcends everything we do, whether it's data privacy or what have you. So I think it really, to Estelle's point, that's the nice thing about where we work. It's understood. There doesn't have to be that explanation. So
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great thing. It's always good to do the right thing, right? So whether there is a law that forces it or not, you should do the right thing.
Yep.
That's beautiful.
Totally.
Beautiful. Hey, there was another thing I was going to ask about quickly, and that is another piece of the information and all that you guys have shared with those around F5 deals with this data retention issue. And the way I like to think about this, I think about like that one TV show, Hoarders, where people just will not throw stuff away. And it's like, hey, you need to be willing to throw away some stuff. So maybe Estelle, we'll start with you, but Aileen, I'd love to get your thoughts too. So talk to us about data retention, throwing data away. Why do people not want to do that? Or why do they just retain it all or whatever? So all that.
Yeah. So like one of the GDPR principle is like storage limitation. So basically, you should not keep the data forever. Yes, we all want to keep memories forever. We never know if we're going to need that one day. So this is why we don't want to get rid of. And I think it's also the case for people's personal life. Sometimes they don't want to throw stuff away. But the problem is the longer you keep data that is inaccurate, the more you can put people's rights and freedom at risk. I'll give you one example. If you start keeping, employees' personal address, let's say, and then because you have that in a file, they separate and someone makes a mistake and send the pay slips or, up to someone else, in this former address that could, have an issue. We can have an issue on your privacy. So that concept of like ensuring that data is accurate, ensuring that you have a clear purpose for the data. And as we talked about before, a bit of a catalog and knowing what you have. And then you should have a clear business case on what you're going to do with the data and how long you need that for. So if you have a set of data, like let's talk about my CV, okay? My CV, if a company decides, I'm going to keep CVs for 10 years, how accurate my CV 10 years ago, 10 years ago, my CV definitely should be deleted from this database. So there is no mandate about data should be deleted after X, Y, Z time, except when it's for legal obligations. So sometimes you have regulated time frame for finance, let's say, or for HR. But usually speaking, on the business standpoint, it's really about ensuring that it's reasonable. Okay, so we have seen a bunch of fines happening before, as I said, for repurposing of data, but also for absence of data retention policies and deletion. because, for instance, company would keep inactive customer file for forever. And that is like hundreds of thousands of records.
Yeah.
So yeah, one tips would be make sure that whatever data you collect, that should be a reasonable time that you use the data for, and then you make sure that you delete, and you have a process around it. So you need to have a policy to explain what you do what you say what you do, and also operational people that should be there and make sure that the schedule is respected.
Great points. Aileen, did you have a thought on that as well?
I just want to just call out what Estelle was saying in terms of this is all a conversation. So there are prescriptive areas of GDPR and then there are not. So what Estelle just explained was this is why bringing in data privacy, your privacy team, and having the discussion, because the privacy team isn't going to say, hey, marketing, 5 years, delete it at 5 years. No, it's going to be, let's talk about your purpose and your use, and it's a discussion. So privacy has a lot of discussions and iterations to make sure the business objectives can be met, and then obviously that the privacy can be maintained. So it's just a point of that we're here to have an open on a conversation, not a, we're not mandating, things.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So I would say like it's Jason, I can see your little laptop here. Like it would be a good day today to go and delete any files that you don't need.
There you go.
Emails that are contains personal data that may be old, like all the download folders that we have, like when we download a database, like a spreadsheet, let's say from a database, and then it just sit there or on our desktop. So just ensuring that we go through this regular, not necessarily a company level, like big deletion, schedule, but just on a personal hygiene. So, yeah.
Yeah, because Jason, you were saying that a minute ago, how many of us have a file sitting on your computer from maybe a previous job or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, even at F5, I've been here 12 plus years, and I've been through many, many machines over the years, but sometimes you copy over your entire directories and you forget about files. And I'm sure I still have files from 2008 on this laptop that I totally don't need.
And normally organizations should have central repositories, right? So you have let's not give names, but you have famous vendors that are supporting some sorts of operational, like for salespeople, for HR, HRIS and things. So those should be the central repositories. So when we download a spreadsheet, we use it, whatever, and then we should delete it after that, instead of keeping the data. Another reason for that, so I talked about this storage limitation, which is a managed obligation, but you also have subject access rights, and these are, we call them subject access requests, that are from GDPR, but also from this California law, the CCPA, and CPRA. So it's really about your customers have the rights to ask you to access the data or to delete the data or to object to the processing, etc., etc. So if you have then the data that are in multiple repository, you won't be able to delete the data effectively. But if everything is centralized, then it would be easier to do that. So think about someone asking for you to delete the data, you do that. Then if they believe you haven't done that, they can also launch a complaint to a supervisory authority, who will then investigate in our system to see if it has been done or no. And if it hasn't been done, then that would be an issue. And that could be down to one individual. So no one wants to be this employee, for sure.
Hey, and Priscilla had a good point here. He said, when you just need to destroy the data, how do you ensure there are not any bits left over? So in my mind, there's a couple of different kind of parts to this. One would be, have you cataloged the data? And so if you're asked, hey, delete everyone's, address or whatever. And it's like, well, how do I know that I didn't miss somebody's address? Well, if you've cataloged it properly, then you have more of a confidence that you captured, that you did delete all the addresses or whatever, right? But then there's the other more technical, discussion around, well, have you just moved the, deletion bit from 1 to 0, but the data is actually still there physically on the hard drive and blah, blah, blah. And that gets into more like, hey, let me use various tools to completely wipe the disk and, run over the physical surface of the drive multiple times and all that stuff. So anyway, not to get too deep into that, but it is in my mind, it gets to the heart of the catalog question at a minimum, like, hey, organize your data, and then that way you'll know, kind of a thing. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
and there's always, you've written your highs, you've written your lows, and you've done like 7 rounds of that on your disk, and then you Office Space PC load letter it out in a field somewhere. Make sure you really get that.
Take a bat to it and a bonfire.
That's right.
There's ways to delete the data,
Yeah.
right?
That's what John, I was thinking that like, oh, okay, glad you came in and saved us on that one, because really I was just thinking hammer.
That's right. The hammer,
Yeah.
Thor, and you need Thor with his hammer there. So beautiful.
Yeah.
And hey, I wanted to call out Reloaded also. Yeah, so Sarah, clean up that digital dust, man. Reloaded came back and gave us a little thank you for the discussion. He was the one that was like, hey, what if my company's stealing my password, all that. It's hard to be optimistic when bad guys are first and good guys are behind. Reloaded, fight the good fight, man. Sometimes it seems like the bad guys have the upper hand, but just know that there's a community of the good guys doing the right thing, and we are right here with you. So it's good stuff. Awesome.
Yep. And Anise, always dealing with privacy issues, being in the health sector, cloud data centers, and that PII going out there.
Yeah. Yep. That's right.
Well, and just not even with PII related to normal electronic health records and all that. It's the necessity from managing the pandemic, and just talk about COVID here for a second. People in the government, locally, internationally, they want to know who has COVID and who doesn't. But as a person receiving medical care, kind of feel like that's between me and my doctor on whether I have it or not, and I should be able to share that with who I want to. And not be required to. So, where, from your guys' perspective, how often do you guys get into the ethical conversations of laws?
Well, I think it's always contemplated. They're always together, right? Because sometimes the law doesn't go far enough, so you have to say, okay, what's the right thing to do to make it, or they didn't think about this. And so now I have to make a decision on this in addition to what the law requires. So I think they always are hand in hand. I mean, if you're working for a good company and you have good leadership and people are thinking about this the right way, they're hand in hand, because the law is really is the baseline, but you don't want to just always sit at the baseline. They haven't really thought of everything. So
raise the standards just a bit, right, from the minimum, right?
It seems like sometimes that the pendulum swings. The pendulum of the law swings maybe a little too far, and then people get upset about that. Then it swings too far to the other way, where, okay, it's not enough law. And it's really hard to find that sweet spot at 6 o'clock in between, the shifts. And, the adoption laws here in Illinois are that way. It's like, they go through 6 to 8 year cycles of way too restrictive, not restrictive enough, and it keeps going back and forth. Right now, we're at the significant height of too restrictive. Not that I'm having a personal experience with that right now, but it seems like the laws they try to get it right, but because they're behind, it's like as soon as things shift, it's like they're way off base. So it's like it's really hard to ever get the law completely right.
I worked for a local airline for a lot of years, and I'll remember a leader. And if people don't know, airlines are heavily, heavily, heavily regulated. And even after deregulation, they are still heavily, heavily regulated. And a leader in that company at the time made a mention at a leadership team meeting saying, we, the airlines, have an obligation to get this right. Otherwise, we just deserve more regulation. So, if you basically take the approach of what's the right thing to do and what's the ethical thing to do, we could actually avoid some of these sort of ridiculous, legislative mandates that come out that do swing the pendulum in a nonsensical way. So I think it's really up to us, and we can all rise with the tide at the same time if we can really get everybody can get their acts together.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to the heart of what we were talking about with just, think about this for the duration of, the whole process, whatever. Don't just think about it after the fact when you're, deploying a web application or when you're, coming up with company policy or whatever. Think about the privacy, conversation the whole time. So, and that helps. So good stuff. All right.
Kadir had a question. How much can we talk about privacy as long as data is stored? Thank you for your response. Greetings from Turkey.
All right. Fantastic. Good to see you, Kadir.
I guess the point is, do I really have privacy if somebody has my data? And I guess it comes back to the terms and conditions. If you have established with your client, whoever that is, that this is what we're going to store and this is how long we're going to store it, and they've agreed to those terms, well, then you have a relationship with them where you're assuring the privacy of that data. But from him sharing it out, so obviously he's sharing it with somebody. So he has given up the privacy to you as a provider, but it's still your responsibility as a provider not to share that with other people, unless there's agreements to do that.
Right.
Yeah, it lives on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's good to know like what you've told people they can do and not, right. So which goes back to what we've talked about before already. So Kadir, that's a great point. I appreciate you bringing that up. Awesome.
And just to touch on Annie's comment, like we're talking a lot about data centers and security issue, but in terms of privacy, what we see in terms of breach, because often it's what people have in mind, the breach happens because of human error in majority. So not because of technology, but much more about people leaving the laptop, unsecured or like sharing data with the wrong person. So again, if we all collectively more careful, we will mitigate the risk for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great point. Well, hey, this happens every single time. The hour flies by that fast because we're having so much fun, right? Aileen and Estelle, it's just so much fun. But hey, we are coming up on the hour, but I wanted to make sure that you both had kind of a last word opportunity. Just anything that we have not covered or that you wanted to kind of highlight again or just emphasize, whatever. So maybe Estelle, we'll start with you and then Aileen will give you the last word. So Estelle, any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, be curious about data privacy. It's a great topic. I mean, any privacy professional are super enthusiastic about it. Sometimes it's harder to bring people along on this. But I think once you start looking at it on a perspective that is actually for the greater good, it's actually a fun topic and nice to work with. So be curious and enjoy privacy.
I love it. I love it. Be curious. That's a great just kind of thing to have in life. Always maintain your curiosity.
Yeah.
I love that. Good deal. Aileen, how about you?
I have to follow that. That's not fair.
Good luck.
No, I think we've said most of it. I guess the piece I would continue to highlight is, while privacy in and of itself, that word feels and sounds so restrictive. Mm-hmm. Hopefully after today, you'll feel like, okay, no, it's not restrictive. It's actually just, a point of design that we just have to figure out how to use and not use and what's the right thing to do. So try to shed any perceptions you might have over what your data privacy team is trying to accomplish, because really they are there to enable data usage. They just want to make sure you're doing it in the safest means possible. So that's what I think I'd ask.
Yeah. What a great word. Yeah. And so, it's not this taboo thing. It's not like, oh, privacy, I can't talk about it. Maybe that's ironic or whatever, but we should welcome the conversation. We should welcome the discussion. It is an important topic and we should all be curious about it, Estelle, to your point, and talk about it, to your point, Aileen. So it's been awesome. Yeah. Jason, any last thoughts here?
Yeah. I'm just, no. I'm kidding. No,
yes, no.
It's fascinating to me how, specifically watching terms and conditions, how easily we give up our privacy for a quick fix, of connection or interest or whatever. I think about all the free download sites where you give away PII because you want that thing for free or whatever. Yeah. And in that show, it's like, you are the product. If you're doing anything for free, you are the product. Yeah. And so keep that in mind out there.
It's like my daughter was on her phone and I was telling her about this new technology, the 5G. It's like super fast. You can download stuff like blazing fast speeds. But then I was telling her, hey, there are a couple of things to keep in mind, whatever. And she's like, Dad, I don't care what I have to give up. If I can download a movie in 3 seconds, then give it to me, period. And I was like, maybe back to Sarah's point, we need to educate our children. So we had a little talk. So anyway, but it's good. It's good. Well, this has been a great discussion around Data Privacy Day, and hopefully, our community, I know, is all the better for it.
Yeah.
So awesome, man. Well, Estelle and Aileen, thank you for what you do for F5. Thank you for coming here to this show and being part of our community and helping educate our community and just making this world a better and safer and maybe more private place. So
thank you for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Wow.
All right.
What an awesome time, man. Aileen and Estelle. Just, beautiful to know we got people like that on our side, and I'm glad we do. So good stuff, man. Well, so Jason, we got, next Thursday, we've got the Shape Device ID Plus.
That's right.
Guys coming on. And like you said, that's not to kind of shift gears too much right now, but it's a free download. So maybe prior to next Thursday, for anyone watching, you could go download that thing and try it out, put it on a little part of your web app or whatever, and see how that thing works. So that'll be a really, really cool show next Thursday.
Yeah, I got mine. And in fact, at the 5 week, we have these quarterly Zoom out days where we can go learn something and spend a day on personal development. And so Wednesday, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to dig into device ID. So at least I can come into the conversation a little more educated than just read about it. So
a little more informed.
So it'll be
I love
good.
it. Yep. So
that's
cool.
That's next Thursday.
Yep.
And then we got the Ansible Lab live with the WWT folks on the 9th.
Yeah. And that one, like last time, the Terraform Lab was just a huge hit. So this is kind of on the heels of that. It'll be Ansible, and Ansible's such a huge topic. So make sure you come and check that out. So, And then on the 11th, which happens to be my birthday, we will be doing the credential stuffing report. Love it. So, it's a good way to spend the birthday.
That's right. Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday, Jason. Credential stuff. Well, good to go, man. Well, it's been another great DevCentral Connects live stream with all of you. I appreciate the interaction. Appreciate what you do out there. Like we say, man, there's a reason that this is the greatest community in the world, and it's because of all of you connecting with us and contributing to the community. So thanks so much for being here, and we will see you next time on DevCentral Connects.
That we will. Take care, everyone.